quite passionate about and quite excited to share with you. So the agenda we put together, we'll introduce ourselves, we'll talk about vibe coding, we're going to explain the sample problem we're going to solve together, and then we absolutely are going to create an applicant tracking system with AI on today's call in less than an hour. When we're completed, we'll talk about what we did and talk about any next steps. My name is Rob Terry. I'm a Director of Business Development here at Folio 3. I have a long and varied background, been in the software world for, I want to say, 35 years now. Had some stops at Deloitte and other places along the way. My whole thing is trying to create value with technology, and that begins with business needs. And it's particularly interesting for me to talk about AI because this puts power in the business user's hands. You don't need to be a technical person to create some amazing apps, and we'll show you that today. My cohort and the smart guy, as I call him, Mesem, will be actually developing the app, and I'll turn it over to you for a quick intro, Mesem, and then we'll get going.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rob, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. Very exciting times. It will be a very exciting thing to show the audience how the new way of doing things in HR will look like, right, in future. So I'm in this industry for more than 14 years now, and these are pretty exciting times.
Appreciate it. So vibe coding, what is this vibe coding? So it's a name giving to a pretty simple concept, although an amazing one at the same time. You should be able to describe the application you want in plain English, and AI is going to build that application for you. Amazing. What are the benefits? Well, first of all, it's very quick. I think secondly, you can do it yourself without additional resources. So you can go right from creating the idea to building the application. It's very empowering. You can go build things for yourself without any other assistance and get the value of automation. So literally speak in English, type in English, the app gets built for you. That's vibe coding. We talked about the benefits just quickly there, but the real thing that we're seeing is it's empowering people in the organization. Maybe you haven't been able to get things developed because there's a backlog or whatever within your organization. How is this all different and better? Very different in the fact that you can be non-technical and do it. It's much faster than it's ever been able to be done before. Anybody who's written software code in the past can attest to that. And I think it's pretty neat that we're going to show you how there's a tool, an AI tool that based on a prompt builds the application. We can use an AI tool to build the prompt, put that prompt into an AI tool to build the application. And then when that AI tool builds the application, it's using AI agents to deliver the functionality. So it's kind of like you're getting three values, benefits of AI put together to do this. So it's pretty powerful and pretty interesting. What is this tool that takes plain English code and makes an application? Today we're using something called Lovable. It's an AI-powered platform, and it's strictly designed to build apps. And it takes natural language, builds it into the user interface and the logic. It creates everything it needs to behind the scenes. So when you're done, you can get a link, send it to your friends, they can go run this application. And it integrates with all the popular back-end AI models. And like most AI, you can start for free, fully functional, and you just need to pay for usage later once you've proven it works for you. So that's what we're going to use today. We're going to use Lovable. What's our mission? We're going to build an applicant tracking system. Now, this webinar is targeted for HR professionals, so I'm going to make the broad assumption that everybody has applicant tracking systems near and dear to their hearts. What is the challenge that they're there for the recruitment cycle? As we all know, it's a time-consuming process. And you know, what I find is you can post a job and you'll get inundated with resumes. And processing those resumes is time-consuming, particularly if we don't apply technology to do it. And the process becomes comparing what the job we've posted requires with the skills and experience of the resumes we've collected. And how do we then take those things, reconcile them, data-driven grade the resumes, create our short list, and get those first interviews booked as quickly as possible. That's the current bottleneck. As we all also know, top talent is sought after, and we just can't waste time identifying them and getting them to an interview. So we really want to fix this. And an applicant tracking system holds that promise. Wouldn't it be great if we could build one? So that's in fact what we're going to try to do today. Well, I'm not going to say try, we are going to do it. Definitely the functions that we're looking for are something that's going to screen these resumes quickly and efficiently, something that's going to grade them and do that based on real data. So we want to say, these are the requirements we're looking for, and we want to empirically grade them against what they're presenting in their resumes. And then ideally, let's get a visual tool. So at the end of this, we've got a short list, and wouldn't it be great if we could kind of drag and drop them around on the screen to put the finishing touches on the ranking? So that's the goal. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to hand it over to Messam, and we're going to do this.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for explaining the problem. I'm from HR. I've experienced many of these things happening in reality, right? And we always dream of a solution which can expedite this process. Let me share my screen. We're going to use two platforms, ChatGPT and Lovable. So I'll switch my screen to ChatGPT. So in this platform, we're going to create a super prompt for Lovable to create our application. So meanwhile, you were sharing the challenges, I created a requirement that can easily explain that what I need from a super prompt for Lovable. So I'll just copy paste my requirement in this prompt. And you can see I'll go through these requirements once I've generated the super prompt with the users. But I started with the persona that I want ChatGPT to act as a Lovable white coder expert, right, and help me design this application. I don't have any experience in development or and never worked very closely with the developers as well. But I know what I want, so in plain simple English, I've typed it my requirements as best I could. So let's see. Let's start with the generating of a super prompt for Lovable.
So just a quick thing, Messam. I started messing with this myself recently. And one thing I noticed from Messam's initial input is that he's taking full advantage. Like, I didn't think about saying, okay, please write this prompt specifically for the tool Lovable. Adopt a certain persona when you create the prompt. Like, to me, those are things I wouldn't have even thought of doing that make a huge difference. And then what ChatGPT sends out, I would never in a million years have put this together, nor with this level of detail. Like, to me, this is quite incredible.
Yeah, it is almost done. I would probably be needing a product manager or somebody else to help me create my specs for the application. But in a second, I got all of this prepared.
Yeah, so what's going to happen here? We're going to put it in Lovable, and it'll take 10 or 12
Absolutely.
minutes for Lovable to generate the application. So we can, Messam just wants to copy and paste it and get that started, and then we'll come back and talk more about what we're doing here.
Absolutely. All right. So let me switch to the platform Lovable. It's almost the same as we've seen a prompt in ChatGPT. So in Lovable, there are a couple of more options available. We'll go through them while we are building this application. But let me just copy paste the super prompt that ChatGPT helped me create it based on my basic requirements. So let's just hit start with the development process in Lovable. So this is the interface, very interesting. On the left side, I see the requirements that I shared with Lovable, and at the bottom, I see that it's thinking and bringing out the requirements or the things that needs to be done to create my application. And we see that it's going through certain clarity around the requirement, design directions, first version features. So while it's building the application, I'll switch back to my prompt and see that what exactly it
Yeah.
created based on my requirement,
Can you
right?
go up to the very top and let's just take a quick look at what you put into Chat GPT in the first place. So you've
Sure,
said, you know, you're telling Chat GPT, act as the expert, a vibe coder, and then, you know, create a super prompt directly for Lovable. Project is
absolutely.
build an AI applicant tracking system. You've actually directly asked for a clean professional dashboard, simple navigation. So those are all details I certainly wouldn't have thought to put in.
Yeah, usually when we use or we've seen ATS, we've seen different pages. We've seen a candidate experience, a candidate who has a user experience of uploading a CV. We know that as a recruiter, I would need an interface where I can easily move the candidates to different stages. As a task manager or a task management tool, I've seen Trello frequently used to manage tasks. So I was thinking of something similar that should create something with the candidates to move around the shortlisted ones. I also want AI to function as a resume parser. So if I receive hundreds of CVs, then they should be sorted and ranked pretty nicely, and I should focus only on those which meets our criteria. And as a recruiter, I could create the job post as well. So let's see what ChatGPT helped us create as super prompt. So I think when we go through this, it clearly defines that what kind of a career page we will be looking at, a candidate application flow. Here's the part where it's specifically highlighting what kind of AI tool would be doing, going through skills, work history, experience, matching the requirement, and giving me some insight around that if the candidate fits the requirement or not. But this is interesting that the reasoning why I should rely on the AI result, it should have some kind of a feedback on the candidate. So I think this is very interesting that it created this requirement too. Let's see, hiring pipeline, Kanban. This is all what we imagine that they would, the application would create. So if I skim through this series of things that it created for me, and from design perspective, it created certain directions that how it should look like, right? And I'm expecting fully functional front-end usable application. So let's see what Lovable is doing right now. So it's still in the mode of development. Let me switch my screen. So we can see over here that it's creating the application. And it
There's
may take almost 10 to 11
Do you have
minutes.
time for
Probably.
a quick question or two, or no?
Yeah, let's take questions if there's any. While
So
this is doing.
someone's asking, what's the best way to iterate? Like one big prompt or smaller feature prompts, or like what's your thought on that on iteration?
So as you see, I've listed down my requirement, right? I exactly know what I'm trying to build. It's relatively a simpler application with a basic requirement. I want to see if it works well. Maybe I can enhance my prompt further to make it more connected ATS with my other functions, right? A lot of companies have a HRIS with a lot of modules as well. So probably in the later stages, if to answer your question, there's no right way of doing it, but every person would imagine how the application would form and how they were going to use, and they can iterate the prompt accordingly or generate the requirements accordingly.
I have another question that popped in if we have a minute. The question is, how configurable is the data model without engineering involvement? So kind of an interesting question. I mean, I know as a non-technical guy, I would have answered that like the data model is prepared and governed by the Lovable tool. So it's as configurable as it needs to be based on the prompts you give it, but maybe you want to take the answer in a different direction.
So I've used Lovable to create different applications, right? And my experience is that this platform really helps you go through the entire process and also advises what needs to be done. So during the process, we may see that because we need a flow where we be requesting or we'll be generating a sample data to test the application. So we would be retaining some information about candidates, storage. So it will enable cloud. It will create some data structures to ensure that my data is stored and processed through the application. So I'm not very technical around it, but I have a trust that being non-technical, this vibe coding tool will help me go through so all those things on uh, on its own.
Cool. So if you're saying right now the build's in progress, what if it occurred to me, oh, there's something critical I wanted to put in there that I forgot? Do I just stop it? Do I wait? What do I do? How do I handle that?
My advice would be not to stop the build process in between, right? So this is a time where you actually go back to your storyboard, right? I'm switching my screen to ChatGPT, right? Where I've listed down all my requirements, right? And if I see that I've missed something, right? So this is time where I can chat over here and explore what other functions I can create, right? So you rightly said that we created a one persona that it should act as a lovable white coder, right? So a second persona could be an expert in creating HR applications, a recruitment specialist, and then explore my requirements much further and bring in ideas around that how further I can create this application better. So to answer your questions, no, not to stop it in between. If you want to think uh, new applications within these application or create new functions, you should wait it out and uh, write it up, explore more, and take help from ChatGPT to create another spec for you.
Okay.
So we see some things progressing in Lovable. This application, what my experience tells me, every time when I chose a different prompt, it went through a different experience altogether, right? Pretty amazing. It surprises me all the time. And every whiteboarding tool has a different approach to develop, right? So we use Replit, we use Base 44, there are a couple of more. And every experience shared a different result, right, with the same prompt. And it's very interesting that how we see iterations based on the same input, we see variations as well. So for audience, you can keep on trying different things, right, and see different results. What best works for you, go with that. Oh, and it's almost done. Let's see. It's creating a visual. So on this part of the screen, it will provide an interface where I can operate and use this application.
Right. It's almost like it gives feedback as it processes each requirement. The other thing I thought was really clever, we need to be able to test this application. So rather than make it painful, you said just create it right out of the gate with 3 job postings and 5 applicants, which
Yes.
is that's a pro tip I might not necessarily have thought of myself, which I think is pretty solid. So here we are.
Yeah, so it's pretty good looking. I think within a few minutes, we have our application ready. And I would stop here. In my experience, what I've noticed, we can start exploring the application, what functions it created. But I would go into a mode where I would verify that if all my requirements are covered or not. So in Lovable, there is a feature where we can chat with the system, right? And we can ask, have you reviewed all the requirements? Verify and share status. So while it's doing this, right? Let's see. A plain English would work in every stage of this development process, right? One is doing things. You can see it's how appealing the colors, and it took the vibe of how I wrote the prompt, right? And design, everything was in consideration. And you can see all the things that we shared as a requirement, there seems to be appearing done. All
So if
core
I'm
components
looking
are
at
there.
this correctly, we created a senior front-end developer job. There's 3 applicants for it. We've got 1 applicant for a data analyst and 1 applicant for a product designer. And that's all, that's showing the summary by job of how many applicants.
Yes. So let's start exploring this, right? So let's explore senior front-end developer. So 3 applicants. We'll go to, oh, interesting. So we gave a reference of a Trello board like interface, and it really created an interface which we can navigate easily the candidates to different stages, right? And if you want to, oh, nice. It shows the criteria that what the job was. We
Right.
shared that there should be some sample positions, some criteria, and the candidate should match up with that criteria. And you can see over here that all those things are reflected in a manner that we can rely on the feedback that AI has passed this CV, and results are relevant. And if you want to schedule the interview, it's letting me schedule the interview with time, date, location. I'm sure the email integration is not done yet, but it would be pretty easy considering the Lovable platform is giving me this interface, and if I give the instruction, it can do very
Can
well.
you just pause on that screen for a quick second? So I just want to make sure everybody sees what's happened here. So now we've got this columns with applied to the job, screened, shortlisted, rejected. When we first came in, there was Marcus was in screened, Sarah was in shortlisted, Jordan was in rejected. So there was rules. If you're below a certain score, you get put in rejected. Notice it's already empirically scored them based on the criteria we put in for each job, and it's got a numeric output. And then as Messam showed you, you click on it and it's actually shown the strengths, weaknesses of each candidate. Now you got a visual board. You can shortlist who you're going to interview, and then click a button and do the interview.
Absolutely.
You know, is it just me, or that's quite amazing?
It's pretty, yeah, it's pretty amazing. This is kind of a fast process that we were envisioning when we were defining our problems, right? Let's see what other functions it has, right? So if I need to see my career page for external candidates, so here are my listing for jobs, right? And if as a candidate I want to apply, it does give me option to upload my CV and apply easily. That's interesting. And if we go to the recruiter page, it should allow me to create a job as well, right? So let's see if we have, oh, look, here we have a new job criteria. It's actually asking me what skills we require, the job itself. And if we make more iteration to the requirement, maybe it will give us some option to create a job specification, job requirements over here. I think it did a pretty decent job. And if you see in the prompt side, it's asking me to connect with Lovable Cloud to help me do the actual resume analysis, right? I think it's pretty perfect, really amazing job. And that it within 2 minutes we got a good usable ATS. Very.
I would agree. That's pretty cool.
Over to you, man.
Okay, so you can see my screen. I've just got to advance to the next slide. So so what have we built so far? We just got a nice visual rundown of it from a summary of what the deliverables actually were. We now have an instant AI screening engine. So AI took drudgery away, which is exactly what we hoped for. I personally was really impressed with that piece. I still am, even though I've seen this before. Every time I see it, it kind of amazes me. So all that, parsing through these stacks is past, which is great. Whether that's online or or hard copy or somewhere in between, it's always been a pain in the past. I personally love the ranking dashboard. Like, I like the ability to drag and drop, get our, and you can share that with a number of people, and you can work on it together. And it's much easier to like post it, get it, have the tool do its thing. You guys have a meeting for a half hour, and argue over the 5 that you're going to offer first round interviews to, and go from there. But you're spending your time on much higher value added tasks and applying your HR specifics to it, right? Which is where you should be spending your time. And I think for me, I worry less that those ideal candidates that we're really after, we number one want to capture, and number two identify them quickly. I feel much better that they're not going to slip through the cracks with a system like this. So pretty good on the deliverable point of view. The next question I ask myself is, well, what's next? Where do I go from here? Is this system pretty good? Yeah. And as far as value for half an hour or whatever it was we just spent, it's pretty incredible what we got. But where do we go from here? So it really depends on what you're doing and where you kind of see yourself. So, I mean, this could be you're trying to create a tool. In fact, what we just did, you could use straight away and probably get immediate value from. Now, if you're trying to create a living, breathing design for somebody in your organization to make this an enterprise level app, that's a good starting point. Or maybe you want to engage somebody like Folio 3 to help and assist. So we talk about the app's good right now. How do we scale it? How do we make it stronger, better, more solid, so to speak? Maybe we want different roles. Maybe we want to introduce security. We want to do some more testing, some more QA, because we're not, it's not ready to share with a big group yet. And I think the big one is probably integrations. So everything in today's world, software landscapes are often combinations of several best-of-breed integrated solutions. We do a lot of work in Folio 3 in the ERP space, so Microsoft and NetSuite ERP tools. Most have third-party add-on HR tools that work with them, because core ERPs typically don't have strong HR functions. So integrating is something that is important, right? And I'm also not a technical person. I've learned a ton about AI just from being exposed to it within Folio 3 over the last few weeks. And I realize that I just don't know what I don't know. The whole concept even of using ChatGPT to engineer your prompt was one that was a completely new thing to me. I really didn't even consider that. And then once started to use ChatGPT, realized don't use it like Google. Don't ask simple questions. You can, but you can unlock much more power when you get the idea of how to really engineer prompts. And then there is a bit of an art form to iterating your solution and extending it and adding more things. So, definitely we've got some of the way there, but how do we go farther? And this webinar is about introducing some of these concepts, and then, offering what we can do to help, what we've done to help others. So just really quickly, if you don't know Folio 3, I started with a company 4 years ago. Now, at the time, we were only 300 people. It's extremely rapid growth, but I didn't realize how big the company was. So we're like 750 plus people. We have a global footprint. So we're in Canada, the US, Mexico, the UK, UAE, Asia, or literally international. I think as a company, we do a lot of things. Obviously, AI is one. We do ERP. We have an e-commerce team. We build mobile apps. So AI is an end in itself, as well as a means to an end for us as far as the overall organization. And our leadership has put all our emphasis on AI. like essentially in their minds, we're an AI company. And so that's kind of who we are. And then we have sort of several packages, we call it. I think the biggest misconception I had about AI was, and it's partly my nature, I'm a bit of an all or nothing type and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I felt like I had to know everything before I start. And AI is one of these things where it's not a spectator sport. It's very much get in, try it, play with it, iterate, learn as you go. Do you need a Sherpa to kind of guide you on the journey? Absolutely. And that's kind of how we view ourselves. So we don't think anybody on the planet knows AI inside out perfectly. There is really no one answer. It's kind of a collaborative thing where you work together. And I think our experience in context, not just within AI, but within automation, within industries more broadly, brings a lot of value. So as we thought about it, we tried to put ourselves in your shoes and say, what would be some ways that you'd want to engage? So we offer something called a prototype partner. So literally, you want to build something and we'll work with you for a day. Imagine what we could do in a day based on what we just did in half an hour, right? So a one-day sprint, we're going to do some vibe prompting. We're going to design, collaboratively build something. And what we're going to get out of that is like a workbook, a demo application, and a whole bunch of follow-ups, and pretty close to where you want to be. And then collaborate with you to talk about, how far are we taking this and what do we need to put in place to get there? So that's one way we can work. We also do something we call a vibe coding masterclass. So if you're like, you know what, I still want to do this hands-on. I still want to take ownership of this. I see what you're doing. I need a little bit of time to play, and I'd prefer to cut through. It's kind of like I prefer to cut through some of this and just get some tips and tricks and guidance. So what's the best way to do that? It's best for you to do some hands-on, and best to break those up into sort of an hour and a half each, where we'll do some training with you. You'll have vibe coding tool up in front of you, and we'll just do some things. So you get some completed work out of that. You'll develop a bunch of templates and some strategies and things to go with. That's another way you can engage. And then some people like a bit of a hybrid of those, which we're all about. So maybe you have some people who want to do training first, then we want to collaborate and do a build project. That's optional as well, an option as well, and kind of anything in between. So these are some suggestions. I think the takeaway is we're here to help. We like long-term partnerships with our customers, and we encourage you to sort of get in and start getting some value and start trying some of this out. So this is my little catchphrase. I say things like, if in doubt, reach out. Like, here's my number, here's my email. Don't hesitate. If you're like, hey, saw some good things, have some follow-up questions, would like to talk about doing an hour call with you guys, or engaging in any of those prototype partner vibe coding masterclass or the innovation sprint, then definitely let us know. That's kind of where I would take it from here, and I might open it up if you guys have some questions you want to post. Tal has asked if we can share the prompt that we used as a reference. Messam?
Yes.
I think we probably do a follow-up from this webinar, and there's somebody who's going to probably send out the recording, I'm guessing, and maybe the presentation deck, so we can include the prompt that we used as a starting point. Luke asks, how are permissions enforced across roles and approval flows?
Interesting. So yes, when we go into execution, when we actually implement this, obviously there will be certain roles or signups or authentications that we would be needing. Who gets which user? It depends when we deploy it. When we take this entire application into execution, we define those things. And the easy part is that we just have to give this instruction to Lovable that we need this integrated. We need these flows. We need different rules or probably roles to manage the entire application, right? So I've done it, pretty easy to manage it. can be done.
Okay. Somebody asks, I have API keys in my application, so I'm targeting things that are like sort of, I guess, secret and internal. There's been some buzz about security issues and that kind of thing. So how would you respond to that, Messam?
So that's the key, right? That's what we were talking about. When we go towards scaling the application, when we make it secure, you really need for a partner who can work things out around security, work things out around integration, connectors through your internal applications. You have a ready solution. You have a prototype in front of you. You can use and you can easily export the code as well. That's easily connected with GitHub. And that's the next step where you need a partner to help you out through all these steps. I've experienced it. I know the confidentiality of this data we're retaining in the system requires, there could be a lot of compliances, GDPR, many other things that you need to think of, right? And I've thought about it as well. But rather making it very complex for the Lovable to create all those functionalities, I would I can see. Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was your internet or mine, but I lost
Yeah.
you for a minute there.
Okay. Am I audible right now?
You are.
Okay, perfect.
I've heard people have asked about architecting these things overall. Do people build little systems and then link them together later? Like, what's your thought on that?
So when we are imagining a system, if it's a standalone application where we want a certain user to operate, or if you're imagining it to be integrated with the existing system, you have to write your requirements accordingly. As you can see, we haven't talked about any technology stack. We haven't talked about any programming language. And I'm sure Lovable is using certain programming languages at the backend, right? And maybe when we go into these details, when we're thinking of integrations, you have to imagine it's okay if you're not technically expert. ChatGPT can create that persona, helps you define all those things clearly and what needs to be done and what should be the best way forward. Or you can take help from organizations where they partner with you and help you out build out or roll out the application.
Okay. A question comes in from the chat. Avery asks, what happens when an integrated system frequently changes its data structure? Always fun.
I am an HR expert. You can ask me something which more or less technical, but would happy to help you out.
Maybe Sheldon from our team is on the call. Sheldon, do you have an answer for that? Sheldon or Mahmood, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, let me try and answer that. So if an integrated system changes its data structure, you would need to make an equal and opposite kind of amendment in the wipe coded application, right? However, usually, integrated applications will not be doing that. So I'm just curious as to what that use case might be. If it's kind of an ERP system or any other, HR system, they wouldn't really be changing the structure every now and then. That would really make their own application unstable. So, if there's a specific use case that you have in mind, Avery, perhaps you can raise that.
Cool. So Messam, I mean, if there's not additional questions or things to show, we can maybe give time back, I guess. And there's Naved is just put into the chat, like, definitely do reach out. Some good questions coming. Hopefully everyone got some value. I know this was at a bit of a higher level, aimed at non-technical people, so hopefully it stirred some interest, which I know for myself personally, I was delighted with what I was able to do, but I also realized there's a lot of power, and I'd rather tap into people with deeper knowledge to kind of keep me on the right path as I do these things. But it gave me hope that I know a lot of things I'm looking to do, I can almost entirely take ownership for myself, and it's not gonna take forever to do or be massively expensive, and I can get value out of it. So definitely reach out, and we're happy to set up additional sessions. We will follow up with the recording and the presentation deck, and I guess the prompt that we used initially, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for your time and attendance, and we shall hopefully speak with you in future.